We're keeping it interesting, the agenda. I don't know what other surprises are in store, but wait and see. Had the pleasure of being at this event since its inception in 2017, and we have evolved our message with the pulse of the industry. So back then, way back then, we started talking about the idea of branch of the future, and that it's not like a thing because the future's never here, but it's North Star. And we talked about your North Star needing to be a spectrum of formats, smaller, more efficient ones. We have also talked about analytics, using data to make intelligent decisions. But today, we're talking about your branch as your superpower. So the last session talked about humanizing in a digital-first world, and of course, you have to embrace digital. But the beauty of your physical presence is that it's already human. So how do you leverage it and maximize it for growth? So the good news, one piece of good news, we have some pieces of bad news, but good news is that experts and consultants all agree in financial services we are at a tipping point like we have never been at before in this post-COVID emergence period. Things are about to change more than they ever had, and it is time, regarding your physical network, to take action. McKinsey dropped their global annual banking review just last week. They called it the Great Divergence. And what they mean by that is that the haves and have-nots that began to emerge after the financial crisis are going to accelerate in their bifurcation starting pretty much now as we emerge from the pandemic. They have also shown that 2/3 of banking value is actually created in the first 2 years following a pandemic. So that's like now, starting now. But before you panic that you need to decide your future fate in 2 years, they also say there is, yes, disruption, but also we are about to enter a golden age of a golden era for strategic decision making. And that is exactly what I'd like to talk to you about today regarding your branch network. Now, Accenture's take on all of this disruption is that in this time of change, all banks are challengers. So you've heard the term challenger bank. You know it used to be kind of an annoying little thing biting at your heels, but now challengers and fintechs have between 3 and 5% of the revenue share of all financial services, and more than that, between 28 and 30% of customer share. So that's a thing now. They are penetrating your world. 275% is the increase in 2020, higher than ever before, of customers that switched to a non-bank, fintech or challenger, as their primary bank. So in January of 2020, 4% of people said that their primary financial institution was a non-bank. By December, that had jumped to 15%. That's kind of significant. But that's not your only problem. According to this chart, which is what bank and credit union executives perceive as the biggest threats, the two biggest are actually big tech, followed by mega banks. And yes, then there's fintechs and challengers. You'll also note that those are the two that have gone up the most between 2020 in gray and 21 in blue. But you have some additional problems, some revenue pressures that have never been higher. And you've got, according to McKinsey, up to 4.7 trillion in potential revenue loss. That's a big number. And also, according to Boston Consulting Group, a little dramatic, but they say banking is under attack, and current cost structures are not sustainable. Moving into this next slide I was trying to move into quickly, Boston Consulting Group goes on to say that there is a big difference, like McKinsey, in the top performers and the laggards. The most efficient banks are operating at 39% less cost base and 53% less FTE. And you can see the majority of that in gray is their branches. So, good news, there's more good news. The course is already charted. There is a way to do this, great. But you've got a bit of a dilemma. You can't just close all your branches. You cannot close your way to profitability. That's not the right strategy, so what do you do? This quote from EY really sums it up. No one wants to go inside a bank branch, but everyone wants to have one nearby. And that continues to be true, and we kind of don't know why, but also if we think about it, but money is like a baseline human need on Maslow's hierarchy. It's like right above air and water and somewhere aligned with shelter. So people want to be close to their money psychologically. They want to know their bank is there, even though they don't want to go in, or maybe they never go in. Having a physical bank presence just matters. And in fact, that's why we see numbers like this. This is Radin research that shows on the top online banking, which has continued to go up in blue. Gray is mobile banking, also continued to go up in gray on the bottom, but in the middle in black, you'll note this little jump between 69% of people visiting lobby or drive up in 2019. That jumped actually higher to pre-pandemic levels to 77% and holding steady. That is branch use being higher now than it was before. And guess who's going in? Young people. Millennials, and I say millennials, they're very young because I am an elder millennial. So what you see here is that millennials not only had the biggest jump between 2020 and 2021, but they're the biggest overall percentage. And then a similar study that took into account Gen Z. By the way, Gen Z is between 18 and 24, so you thought they were like little children, but they're real people with real jobs and stuff that you need to start to think about. 30% of Gen Z said access to a physical branch more important in 2021 than in 2020. So, okay, you wanted to close your branches, you can't because people want to come in them. Let's get to the real problem, which is this. For the most part, the branches you have are not the branches that you need. This picture, I actually Googled ugly bank branch, and this came up. This nice community bank in Florida is holding on to the old, like they're proud of this, and power to them. I really hope they're not here. But the problem is that most of you have branches that may not look quite this bad, but might sort of look like this. They are built for transactions that are no longer occurring in them. They're too old, they're too big, they're in the wrong place. They're probably kind of dated and not exactly brand statements. So, okay, what do you do? Also, by the way, post-COVID, there's something that happened in financial services like a awakening of sorts. And financial wellness and the ability or proclivity to disrupt the status quo is higher now. So a lot of people didn't like their bank, but the hassle of switching, I don't have time for that. In 2019, the last normalized year, 4% of people switched financial institutions. Today, up to 24% in consumer and 25% of small business are saying, at least they're saying, they're considering switching. That's 6 times the amount of potential switchers. So this is, yes, a threat, maybe, but I like to think of it, for most of the people in this room, as more of an opportunity. Because these switchers, for the most part, are coming from mega banks, and they're coming to, hopefully, all of you. This is an opportunity to capture them and use the branch as leverage to do so. And by the way, in case it wasn't clear, the time to get smarter is like right now. So let's get smarter with our branching strategies. 3 ways to do it, and as easy as 1, 2, 3, just this easy. Number one is about where to actually go. This may not be where you think it is. It is also about where to save, and the saving in blue there, because for some of you, you may be already very optimized or small and only focused on expansion, but for many of you, some amount of savings is also something you should think about. Number two, what do you deploy, what formats, and in what priority order? And number three, the if you build it, they will come strategy is not a great one. You have to actually activate and leverage your branches once they are there, starting with where to go and save. It's really these two questions. Number one, where is there room for you in the market? Yes, it's about population growth and overall size, but it's a lot more about room. And number two, how do we create a transformation plan, not just expansion, but also optimization? So it's got to start with data, and I know when I say data, it strikes fear into the heart of most of you. Some people might be sweating. It is overwhelming and scary. It is about only the most relevant data, and really these 4 data sources are the sources. Market data is better than it's ever been. We just had the 2020 census. It's really what people are going and what is happening in the physical markets. Competitor data, this is SNL. Luckily, we all have the benefit of being part of a federally regulated industry where everything is reported, and you need to know who has what market share. Now then there's the scariest data, your data. That's probably not how you want it to be, and you're probably trying to fix it. But it is important to get that relevant data of your branch performance, your people, your customers, and what's happening in your organization, and connect it with these other data sources. This 4th one is a little bit different. It's a little cutting edge for the financial industry. It's mobility data, which is data from people's mobile phones, showing where they're going and what they're doing over time. It's tracking them anonymously. It sounds a little big brother scary, but, and it is sort of, but it's totally legal, and also something that you need to do. With mobility data, you're actually able to see where your trade area is. Looking at a client's branch right here in Austin, we geofence the branch, and we find out where people that are going either by the branch or in the branch, we can do either, where they live. And this shows, and this is common throughout the country, your trade area is not what you think it is. It's not necessarily this perfect little blob around your branch. It looks more like this crazy Swiss cheese, and what we're able to see then is who these people are and how they compare to the MSA. This is actually showing pass-by traffic has slightly lower incomes but higher education and no kids. So if you're targeting people without kids that are smart, this might be a good location to invest in. Also, when you're considering expansion, the combined data intelligence can roll up into opportunity scores that affect your real estate selection. So yes, your broker is going to be showing you everything that's hot right now, but this can actually give you data sources that help you do it a little more intelligently. And then ultimately, yes, expansion is important. So on the very far end, you see a beautiful experience of a flagship location. You're going to need those. But all the way on the other side with savings, that's a client that actually is closing branches in less advantageous areas and putting up remote standalone ITMs in their place. That's a closure strategy, if you will. Next to that was a client that was moving out of markets and leaving micro branches behind. In the middle, you see just a refresh that it spiffs up the brand and cross-sell and employee experience. And then you've got renovations that are a little more expensive but pay for themselves in staff reduction if you're removing teller lines and putting in TCRs. So in total, this is what an actual transformation plan looks like. Getting to thing 2, what to deploy. Okay, so we know where to go, we know we have to save, we know we need different formats. What, are they? How many of them do I need, and how much do I spend on them? Well, we've talked in the past about the network effect, which is a phenomena that basically means you want concentrated scale. It's how Chase does their branching, and by the way, it works. What it means is that when you reach critical mass, which for most markets is about 6%, your percentage of your market share exceeding your branch share doubles. So you want to be about 6%. Now, how you get there, however, is not with a bunch of hub standalone branches. Yes, you need some standalones that are big, but create a multi-year roadmap that has some hubs and some spokes, maybe some remote locations, and boom, I've got 12 points of presence right here that are all different in nature, and here's showing an example of that. This is a client also here in Texas. We designed and built these beautiful branch locations, but they had to figure out where they go. So you've got this freestanding several $million-dollar building. I need to put that, based on the data, where I've got the most market opportunity, and then I've got a spoke that's also very nice. It's an inline location on an end cap. It's got a drive-through, but it's like a third of the cost. I'm going to put that in an area with a third of the opportunity, and then I'm going to support it here, as they did, with remote drive-throughs that are either near branches or miles away from them in the areas of the least opportunity. This is what hub and spoke format deployment looks like. Now, what order? Okay, I need all of those. How do I prioritize? Well, just a note, if you're going into a new market, you don't want to do it by trickling in with some micros or standalones. You've got to prioritize hub experiences like you see here. All of these clients were opening new flagships in new markets, from urban to suburban to even a college location. But then support them, like in the previous picture of CUTX, with spokes. Here on the left, you've got 2 credit unions, one a cashless urban location, and one even a mobile branch on wheels. And then on the right, more of these standalone ITM remote deployments, which, by the way, are so hot right now. And in case you were wondering, self-service is on the rise. Adrenaline conducted our own research and found that 80% of financial institutions are either in full adoption or broad expansion with self-service video teller technologies, and we have a white paper on this coming out soon. So definitely incorporate self-service in some way. And finally, how to leverage. Well, this is about smarter marketing around your branches and improving them over time. I will give you one last research dump, and then I promise no more data. This Bain study is saying that 29% of your customers are defecting from you. They are buying products from competitors, but nearly 8 of 10 of those same people would have rather bought them from you. They just didn't get a relevant, timely, good offer. So give them one. Have smarter marketing and do it in proximity to your branch locations. This client was moving from Mississippi into Memphis, Tennessee, and so concentrated, you see population dots there, concentrated marketing messaging in and around the branch locations, both digital and traditional marketing, to increase effectiveness of not just acquisition, but also cross-sell of existing customers. And then, back to my favorite mobility data, it allows you to actually capture mobile ad IDs, and when you have those of either customers or potential customers, you can send direct relevant offers right to people's devices. That's the most accurate form of marketing that there is. So, okay, all of that sounds great. How does this actually work? Here's some quick hitters of some proof in action in these different areas. So in number 1, where to go and save, this is a $4 billion bank that was needing to make quick site decisions in a hot real estate market, despite what their broker was telling them. We were able to give them instant information about who's coming to that site, how it indexes to the market, and to the other competitive real estate locations to make those decisions. This client began with a North Star creation that they actually applied to existing locations in both light and medium to heavy renovations, and then used that to fund expansion of new deployments into brand new hubs and spokes like ITM onlys. And then this client, a $3 billion credit union, was figuring out branch overlap and tracking performance trends inside their branches to figure out what they should close and it just so happened that actual visitation of people was not what they thought it was. And so what they needed to close was different based on this data. And then this regional bank was actually comparing their facility scores with the opportunity scores, so that if I've got a really bad shaped branch that maybe looks like that ugly one I showed you earlier, in a very high opportunity market, I'm going to prioritize that for renovations, enhancement, investment, whatever it might be. And then finally, this $26 billion bank was trying to acquire retail customers in a very saturated DC market. They had just opened some new beautiful branches and used proximity marketing to actually increase effectiveness by 145% in click-through rates and get 1,000 new checking accounts in 3 months. And so this is how it works. As simple as 1, 2, 3, obviously not quite that simple, but definitely as you're thinking about your branch network and getting smarter with it, think about where to go and to save, a transformation plan, what formats you need and in what order, and then how to leverage them. If you want to know the end, it's that your dilemmas are solved, all of them, with following those easy 1, 2, 3 steps. Thank you very much. Adrenaline, again, find us. Our logo is kind of everywhere, and we have a booth. Please come talk to us. Our content for this and our previous future branches are at that website you see there. Thank you very much.